I get this text from you, and it says, "Who do I know that has nothing to do and wants to go rescue the boat?"
In this episode, our friend Bill comes down to Key West to help me return my miraculously recovered sailboat back to her rightful home.
We got ready to fire up the engine, and nothing.
We're not sure we're even going to make it out of the boatyard without some drama.
And he said, "That's the owner of the boatyard. I mean, I can go tell him right now. He'll probably have you splash right now as she is." I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?"
But even if we do, we've got just a few challenges to overcome.
We don't have a working depth sounder. We don't know if the sails are going to be useful on the trip. We don't really know if we can depend on the engine.
Okay, say it with me. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh no!
How not to sail. Screwing up is part of cruising. Let me show you how. So in case you missed the last 4 episodes, I had to abandon ship and hop on a Coast Guard vessel 35 miles north of Key West on the afternoon before Hurricane Milton.
The vessel was found recently, and we'd like to get back into contact with you.
And after a Navy helo spotted her over a month later, I had her towed to Stock Island, just next to Key West.
Appreciate you.
There are 2 boatyards in Stock Island, and they have similar sounding names. My friend Jim had been to one of the 2 recently and was pretty happy with them. The one my boat was headed to seemed like they were quoting a little higher price for the haul out than what Jim mentioned, but I was busy getting my happy ass down there from Atlanta and didn't feel like quibbling. I have to admit I've had mixed results when it comes to boatyards. Okay, not really mixed results. I'm struggling to think of a single boatyard out of 6 so far that I've been what I might call happy with. But when Towboat US towed my vessel into the haul-out basin and they got her up on the hard the next day, I was what, for me, passes as ecstatic. Here was my boat, lost for a month, now found with minimal damage. My main reason for bringing the boat to a yard and hauling her out of the water was to see what kind of injuries she might have sustained during her month-long walkabout. Surprisingly, they were few. The main and staysail were torn, the forward port lifeline had snapped, the batteries showed no charge, and of course the cabin was a disaster. But the hull seemed intact, and frankly the keel didn't look much worse than the last time I'd seen it underwater. I was lucky she'd gone aground in soft mud, apparently. The manager of the boatyard seemed friendly and confident enough, so since you're supposed to get the bottom repainted every couple of years, and since I view pulling my 9-ton boat out of the water with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for discovering an unexplained skin condition, I figured I'd take this opportunity to let the yard sand and paint the bottom, while I attempted to take care of everything else and finalize plans for our friend Bill to fly down to help me take my boat back north to St. Pete.
How long do you think it's going to take?
Well, that's also a question. I don't know.
The short answer is, I'm not sure. Among other things, I don't know how quickly I can get a bottom job, get new batteries, and get my sails repaired.
So that doesn't answer your question yet.
Right.
I'm trying to at least get Bill back before Thanksgiving, which is only a few days after I imagine we'll be splashing the boat.
We could bust it up that way, and if the engine and or sails are giving us full speed, we could
make some really aggressive hops if everything goes well.
It would be much better if we take at least, 4 to 6 days.
Yeah, that's a little more sane.
I mean, it's 200 miles, so
Yeah.
I am not planning to be back in Gulfport until about a Wednesday week.
Yes, that would be 1 day before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Let me figure that out.
But Bill's a gamer, and he's about to hop on a plane to Key West. Of course, with all our speculation on the schedule, I still haven't got a boat back in the water with a working electrical system or sails that aren't ripped, and I haven't even had a chance to try to crank the engine. Yeah. Do you feel that foreshadowing too? Monday the 18th, 4 days after my sailboat was towed in and 10 days before Thanksgiving. I can tell from my blog I started out at 7:30 a.m. and ended around midnight. I rented a minivan and finalized arrangements to drop off my sails in Key Largo the next morning, on the way to pick up 5 large batteries in Miami, and then pick my sails up on the way back south. I also repaired the solar panel charging wires that had chafed through in the storm, and soaked the chart plotter connectors in WD-40, since for some reason the plastic bag I'd taped around them to keep water out was full of water. Finally, I got the sails down from the boat and into the van.
All right, this will be a quick stand-up. Notice here I had to add one of those little hair tie things with the balls on the end, elastic, to the staysail to contain it. So that makes 4 ties.
When I hopped on the Coast Guard Response Boat Medium on October 8th, I had tried to do everything I could to square away the boat. This included packing the chart plotter and a few other things into my little suitcase, closing and covering the companionway, and securing the main and staysail before covering them as well. On my boat, securing the main and staysail to their booms is normally pretty basic. You simply tie them to the boom with sail ties. And for sail ties, I've been using these things that look like elastic hair ties, maybe for ladies with lots of hair. They have 1-inch plastic balls on the ends, red for the 24-inch ties and blue for the 16-inch ties. I find this system easy to use, although they can be dangerous if you're not careful, especially with the mainsail, where if you accidentally release one of the ends of the sail tie, a 1-inch hard plastic ball may come flying toward your teeth over the top of the sail or toward your waist around the bottom of the sail. A fact that I became reacquainted with while taking the sails off the boat.
Speaking of balls, you'll never guess what happened when I took one of those other hair tie things off of the main. Yeah.
Not all the discoveries I made were painful, though. On the plus side, I found that my existing house batteries, the ones aboard the boat as she drifted around for a month, had gone from showing no charge at all to now showing a full charge after a couple of days with shore power. But since I didn't trust them, and since batteries are a necessity aboard a modern cruising boat, the road trip was still on.
All right, it's 7:52 a.m. and I am headed north on Highway 1 from Stock Island.
Tuesday, November 19th, 42 days after losing Jacie sails and a week after the Navy found her, I'm taking the all-day drive from Key West to Miami and back to get my sails repaired and pick up 5 new batteries.
Ahoy, Ken.
Been here long?
No, just a few minutes.
Okay, great.
10 o'clock, 2 hours on the road. I'm now in Key Largo dropping off my main and staysail.
I'm Kim Calypso from Calypso Canvas and Sail.
Oh, Kim. I didn't get that. Okay, sorry. I've had that wrong for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. Everybody does that.
Oh, okay.
Ever since he helped me out almost a decade ago, I've thought his name was Ken. But it's Kim with an M. He's a good dude, and he may or may not vaguely recognize me after all this time.
There's probably 400 mechanics in the Keys. There's probably 12 canvas shops. There's now only 1 sail shop.
I was hoping for a sail shop closer to Key West, but it's good to see Kim again, and finally learn his correct name.
That one might be trouble, I don't know.
I drop off the 2 sails for him to work on and keep heading northeast toward Miami. The Florida Keys consist of about 800 islands stretching from Homestead on the Florida mainland west-southwest to the Dry Tortugas. Basically a broken ridge of coral stretched along the most turquoise water you will find in the United States. The overseas highway runs 113 miles from Homestead to Key West, over 44 of these islands. And although it runs through some larger towns like Marathon and Key West, it's a 2-lane road in many places, which is kind of a problem during hurricane evacuations or if you're in a hurry. I enjoyed the morning drive up to Key Largo, but as soon as I crossed over to the mainland, the traffic and sprawl started. And by the time I pick up the batteries in North Miami and start back south, it's rush hour. After picking up the repaired sails from Kim in Key Largo, it's back down the 44 islands, and by this time, the magic has worn off. But 12 hours after leaving Stock Island, I'm back.
What is up?
And our friend Bill is waiting on me.
I've been watching cars come and go, like, I'm not gonna stand up until it's you.
That's right.
Because I can't see through the window.
Now we have a crew, if we can just get the boat back in the water and actually get underway.
When I saw the boat up in the air, I was amazed at how good it looked.
On the other side is some scraping that was
scraped.
Yeah.
So the boat was hauled on a Saturday. It's now Tuesday. Thanksgiving is 9 days away. And although I've gotten a survey, picked up new batteries, got the sails repaired, and fixed several other things, the Boatyard has done approximately nothing so far towards the bottom job.
What we got there? A suit for use were someone to start sanding.
No one has started sanding yet, and it's unclear when someone will.
Who are the guys from Breaking Bad? Skinny Pete and what was that other guy's name?
It takes a special kind of person to get out in the hot sun in a Tyvek suit and scrape toxic paint off of a boat.
Funny guys.
Oh, there's goggles and stuff.
Let's do it now.
They had a couple probably smoke breaks. They took their time. They would sit down and relax occasionally.
In short, things weren't moving along quite as rapidly as we needed them to. By midweek, we had a norther that apparently delayed things. And then a sporty boat with 2 or 3 of those big outboards on it appeared next to us, and people immediately started painting that one.
You think we're still possibly okay for a Friday afternoon splash?
The fella Bill referred to as Badger seemed to think everything would be cool.
I sure hope so, because if not that means Monday, and he's got to fly back pretty soon, so...
But I had the sneaking suspicion that Badger would probably tell me whatever I wanted to hear, so I figured I'd better go up the chain a little bit.
So you had gone to the manager of the Boatyard
and politely asked him whether we'd be out by Friday, and if not, if we'd be charged for the weekend, since I'd been basically ready to rock and roll since Bill arrived on Tuesday.
Well, that was interesting.
The manager had seemed nice and reasonable and friendly so far.
He was real nice, then he wasn't.
The conversation did not go exactly as I had anticipated.
For the most part, he wasn't really having it.
When I mentioned the very slow pace so far, and also the motorboat they put next to us, which nixed any sanding because they were getting painted.
Guy in front of me that, was painting.
This seemed to strike some kind of nerve.
He said, that's the owner of the Boatyard. I mean, I can go tell him right now. He'll probably have you splash right now as she is. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
I'll splash you right now.
So look, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I got my crew here, got a rental car. Crew's got to get back home. I'm not made of money.
This threatening to splash someone without completing the work is completely unique, even in my unusual history. I don't know about you, How Not to Sailor, but to me this seems like something we might call a red flag. If you're thinking, this seems like the kind of situation I'd want to get clear of as soon as possible, you're right. But however and whenever we get put back in the water, we still haven't been able to try cranking the engine yet, since the boat's been up in the air on jack stands. So, yeah, what could possibly go wrong? We're about to hear what happened there in a minute, but speaking of minutes, have you heard the How Not to Sail Minute podcast? We're actually about to hit episode 175, right about when this episode comes out. and it's been going every weekday since October. Now, why would I want to launch another podcast just now? I'll explain that a little bit at the end of this episode, but meanwhile, if you haven't heard it yet, I sure would love for you to check out the How Not to Sail Minute and tell a friend. And if you happen to like it, we sure could use a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Heck, you could be the first. Let me know. So anyhow, I appreciate you checking it out at hownottosail.com/minute or wherever you get your podcasts and helping spread the word. And even if you don't, thanks for listening to this here podcast. And meanwhile, back to the suddenly less friendly Boatyard.
I don't remember how the negotiation went.
So anyway, he kind of calmed back down after a minute and ended up with, we'll definitely try and get it going. But man.
I think that he ended up splashing us on Saturday, and Skinny Pete and Badger did actually get the job done.
Well, they kind of got the job done. I had to brush some primer on above the prop shaft myself, and there were more than a few barnacles painted over. But while everybody was busy dicking around, I'd gotten a surprisingly positive survey, got new batteries, which I didn't need yet, got the sails repaired, and thank God a travel lift was now putting my boat back in the water where she belonged.
All right, we're splashing the boat.
So I've never seen a boat splash before.
That's a good picture. She's swinging a little bit.
To see that huge hunk of metal coming through the boatyard, it's so massive. It really did feel like we were in Star Wars. And then to realize that it's got about 2 inches on both sides when it's coming down where you splash in was pretty amazing to see.
Don't push on those. Yeah, thank you.
But splash us they did, and then pulled us by hand a few yards out of the haul-out basin to the same seawall where Towboat US dropped off the vessel, and then went home and left us alone for the rest of the weekend.
Cranker, I guess. Alrighty.
I'm pretty sure we were as eager as they were not to see us tied up in the same spot come Monday morning.
Okay, getting ready to crank the engine. Batteries are not bridged. The seacock is open.
I was ready to get out of the marina and had already booked a slip at the Perry Marina and Hotel right around the corner.
We are allowed to cheer if it works. All right.
However, I had not been able to try cranking the engine since the boat was found.
It probably won't on the first try, but it will.
Of course, it didn't crank.
I think that's just due to the lack of throttle.
Yep.
We did have a sticky throttle, but the main problem was probably me running the diesel tank entirely dry and then the boat drifting around for a month.
Go ahead.
It didn't crank on that attempt, or the next, or the one after that. I called our friend Blowtorch Mike a few times.
If we got diesel coming out of the bleed nut on the injector pump,
That's a good sign.
if we keep turning it with the compression off, it should start appearing where we just spoke of, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And Bill and I both had a go at trying to hand crank the engine, which works much better if you do it in the right direction.
When I go clockwise, I think that's what we want.
Yeah, you should see the crankshaft pulley and stuff moving.
But still didn't quite do the trick. We were putting a huge load on our newly resurrected batteries, and I was starting to worry that we'd still be sitting there in front of the haul-out basin come Monday morning.
Will you stay there for the night?
No, I really don't want to.
Instead of on our way up the mainland to try and get back for Thanksgiving.
All right, just for shits and giggles, try one more. Yeah, let go. Yaha! Get ready to push that throttle back down. Bring it down some.
And so, 11 days after my boat was found and 46 days after losing her in the outer bands of Hurricane Milton,
Cast off when ready.
and just a few minutes before closing time, I motored just a couple of 100 yards north to the Perry Marina and Hotel.
Throw it aboard. Thank you, sir. See you up there. God willing. Perry Marina Dockmaster, Jacie Sales.
It was so great to see her on the water and moving and in one piece. And I'm sitting on the dock, and you come around the corner. I hear the crowd cheering. Maybe it was just me.
Just had a hurricane. This shouldn't make much difference.
Wow, I don't even know what to compare it to. I've got videos of you coming around that point. You can feel the excitement.
We still had a bare mast. We hadn't had time to bend the repaired main and staysail back on. And in fact, I still had the shore power cord wound around the lifeline, which was just how I left her. In short, she was a mess. But a mess with a working engine. And now, hopefully, we were headed home.
Yes, we have a slip tonight. I'm coming in from just down the inlet here, probably heading for the fuel dock, if that's all right.
Copy that, Captain. Our fuel dock is open.
There was a little bit of panic setting in when we tried to start the engines. We already had plans made, for one, in the Perry Marina, and for two, actually getting the trip started. I think that you had made some plans and reserved some slips or some things a few days out, which we weren't going to make if we couldn't get this engine started.
And by the way, for the record, we have just one engine.
Whatever. So, I remember the twin turbos. That's what I remember.
Oh, somebody's at the front door. Or like a bird flew by.
Stay tuned next time where our friend Bill and I, having got the boat to a nice marina, decide to leave said marina and try to head north to bring her home. And in that endeavor, we discover the depth sounder isn't working and devise a solution that works about as well as you'd expect. And we may or may not run into our friend the Bonds, who may or may not send us off with numerous provisions. What could possibly go wrong? I got some news and resources you can use coming up, but just so you know, if you're checking out this episode via Patreon, you've just been watching about 22 minutes of mostly exclusive video clips and photos from the actual story. It's one of the perks of being part of the How Not to Sail Patreon crew, and in case you're interested, I'll put a link in the show notes at hownottosail.com/69 that should take you right to the video. And if you aren't into donating as little as $3 a month to join the Patreon crew, you can just throw a few bucks at the show one time and get access to the video version. And if you're not into any of that, I appreciate you very much anyway for listening to this here podcast and maybe telling a friend. Speaking of patrons, our Patreon crew's got all kind of stuff going on. Our friend and sailing master Wayne Stennett is busy crushing it in the gym these days, and I just discovered he has a book about that as well, which I'll put in the show notes. Jimmy and Sandra are making me super jealous because they are in Central America right now, and they're on their boat. Of course, if you've been listening to the How Not to Sail Minute daily podcast or visiting hownottosail.com, you know I took our friend and patron and raffle winner Tal sailing, which could very well end up as an episode if I ever get home from this trip. Anyway, I'll put links to the Tal trip and to Jimmy and Sandra's awesome cruise and to Wayne Stennett in the show notes at hownottosail.com/69.
Hey, Bradford, I just wanted to let you know this is Anthony calling, letting you know that I am enjoying your podcast, and I am so amazed that I never found this over all the years that I've been sailing. So I am, in less than 2 weeks, I am already up to, I think, episode 30-something. But anyways, enjoy and keep up the difficult, fun things that always go wrong when you're sailing.
Thank you, Anthony, for leaving that message on the How Not to Sailor hotline, and I trust you've had ample time to catch up to episode 69. And there's no need to memorize the phone number for the hotline. Just go to hownottosale.com/hotline. You starting to see a pattern here? I'm not really a huge fan of Meta and Google and Amazon and whatnot, so I'm trying to make hownottosale.com the hub of everything, and you can bookmark it on your smartphone screen just like it was one of those craptastic apps. I try to make the website as privacy-friendly as possible, and I really appreciate it when you visit and leave comments and messages, like Scott Gibson, who writes, "I'm really glad you found her in reasonable condition under the circumstances. When you thought she was lost, I have to admit that one of my thoughts was, wow, that Bradford really takes this how not to sail thing very seriously, taking it as far as losing his boat so he can't sail. That was in such poor taste that I kept the thought locked away and didn't let it out of my mouth. I had happy tears for you during the episode that they towed her back in for you. I tell you, Scott, I did too, and I appreciate your writing. Don't forget you can comment on any episode page or post, or just hit hownottosale.com/contact to send me an email. I like regular emails and having a website because, unlike Facebook and YouTube, they can't suddenly decide to delete me if I say the wrong thing or log in from Cuba or something. Okay, so I touted some useful resources as well. Since you stuck with me this long, I'm going to put the full contact info in the show notes, but I wanted to highlight Calypso Canvas and Sail in Key Largo, which, like Kim said in the story, is the only resource that I know of currently in the Keys for sail repair. I can tell you from personal experience, it is possible to take a bus up to Key Largo, at least from Marathon, and probably from Key West or Stock Island. Although with 2 sails to repair this time and plenty of other errands, I found it a lot easier to rent a van. Secondly, I wanted to get a survey while the boat was hauled, and I found a fellow I think was quite good and super helpful. I could do a whole episode on his visit, which could happen, maybe as a bonus episode or something. But his name is Alan Taub out of Key West, and like Calypso Canvas and Sail, I'll put his contact info in the show notes at hownottosale.com/69. Finally, I can't wrap up resources without talking boatyards. Yeah. So even though I'd be on firm legal ground to be even more free with my opinions, and even though I recorded permission to record my conversations with the manager at this place I went, let me just say that any port in a storm if I absolutely had to haul out at this boatyard again. But otherwise, if there is a next time for hauling out near Key West, I think I shall call Buddy's Boatyard instead of the one I went to with a similar name. Okay, I hope you found that useful. I hope you'll jump over to hownottosale.com and check out the show notes. They're always at hownottosale.com/the episode number. And if the show just came out, you don't even have to remember that because it'll be right there on the homepage at hownottosale.com. Thanks so much for your patience. I really appreciate you listening. Hope you'll tell a friend, and I'll see you next time on How Not to Sail. Screwing up is part of cruising. Let me show you how.